You're listening to the A to Z of Human Performance live show weekdays at 13:30 GMT with Chris Lissman and resident expert Jonna Sercombe. Please enjoy responsibly. And here he is, the star of the show. It is Christopher Lissman. Hello, Chris.
Hello, welcome to the show, everybody. It's show 22. Can you believe that? I'm here with the Interactive Workshops team. John has joined me again. Wannabe Mountaineer, Jonna, as you heard yesterday. That was a great show.
I loved it. Yeah. But I'm a bit sad because, we said we do 20 live shows in January. We've done those. Then we realised we needed to do a few more to finish off. And then, at the end of this week, that'll be it. 25 live shows.
In the bag. That'll be really sad. That'll be really sad finishing up. The book, of course, is now a hot new release on Amazon. It's number one in the hot new release chart, which is very exciting.
Very exciting.
And we're very close to number one in the bestseller charts as well. So by the end of the day, could be a bestseller. How are you feeling about that, Jonna?
Yeah, well, I know how the algorithm works, Chris.
How's that?
If there's enough categories, every book can be a bestseller. But it's very interesting, isn't it? It relates to today's theme. We're going to do two today, values and ultimate. So the chapter on ultimate is about winning or not. And the chapter on V is on values. And but ultimate, it's for me really fascinating whether we're someone who likes to win. And obviously a best sellers list is exactly that. It's like, who is the best selling book? Yeah. Actually not the best book, but the best selling book. And obviously to reach number one in a best selling list, you just need buyers. And there's no differentiator as who they are. You can be the buyer yourself. You could buy every book, a copy of your book from Waterstones and be their most sold book. So it's interesting, how you might go about trying to win. And you could win like that, couldn't you, by cheating? But maybe that would go against your values. Or maybe the aim was to get to number one by any means. And therefore, that your values will be fine with that. I don't know what you think. Do you think these Amazon there's another way, isn't there, for Amazon? Amazon are winning because they've got a million categories, and everybody who gets number one thinks great.
Bestseller by buying their own books, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think, and lots of things factor into it as well. It's not just best selling; it's the reviews factor in, and the page clicks factor in. So even the bestseller title itself is not exactly accurate, but it is a bit of fun, I think, to try and get yourself to number one.
And we do. I mean, again, thinking about values, we do try not to compare ourselves to other people. I think that's one helpful thing. There's always. We in the Western world are extremely wealthy because we have a book. I remember going to a talk once, someone said the majority of children in the world do not own a book. So if you own a book, you're in the upper half of wealth. It's like, wow. But we have so much, don't we? And it's comparing ourselves to others doesn't necessarily help us. I don't know, Emma mentions this on the start line. It doesn't help you to look and sit and think that other person's fitter, faster. Yeah. Or like in business, you could look. We've work hard on our financial results at the end of the year, and then you think, yeah, but there's other companies that have turned over twice as much, or got 5 times as many people, or have done better work on more topics, whatever it might be. But so comparing ourselves doesn't help in some ways, but then it does help, doesn't it?
Well, for this book and a few of our past books, we've been up against Simon Sinek to try and get to number one. So. In a way, how can we compete? But at the same time, we love it. We love trying to compete.
We love it, don't we? Yeah. And I actually also love games. I love games. So I think it's interesting to talk a bit about the psychology. Let's do ultimate for 10 minutes and then let's go into winning. Let's do that. But and then we'll go on to values. But yeah, some people are really motivated to win, and I love games. My mum had a rule when we were children: you're not allowed to just leave halfway through a game of Monopoly, even if you're crying. And that's because my sister would beat me, and I wanted to win. I really wanted to win, Chris. And
I had similar experiences as a child playing against my brother. We had a game called Payday, which basically never got finished. My best man actually mentioned it in his best man speech because he'd witnessed me and my brother playing this game when he'd come over. And the board would get tipped up. That it would generally be an upset on the rules. I wanted things to be fair more than I wanted to win. So if my brother was sort of bending the rules, making up rules, that would grate against me, and it would end in tears.
Yeah, back to bending the rules. Is it allowed? But it's interesting what you said there. Your best man.
Yeah.
What is it? The best man? Why do we have that? Why do we make one person better than everybody else and say at the wedding, there's all just in front of all these friends that I've invited that I all love, I'm just going to label this one, they're the best man. They're not. Like the ladies have the bridesmaids, don't they? Sometimes they have the matron of honor, but matron of honor. There we go. But we do this. We do have.
It's our desire to make things ultimate, isn't it?
To have someone.
We need a winner. We need a first place.
Yeah, but and I think society swung a long way away from this. And I'm going to tell you a little secret, Chris. But in education these days at school, it's about doing your best. It's not about being the best. But I've realised that my kids are in quite the school is excellent, but it doesn't teach you to be competitive.
Are we talking about everyone getting a medal?
Everyone gets a medal, yeah. I mean, actually, that's sports day. That's not like that. But what I realised is if I could teach my kids to be competitive against a group of people who've been trained to be not competitive, they're more chance of winning. So, there's a kind of strategic element to it. If you're competing in a non-compete environment, probably you're going to find it easier to do the best.
We just had Christmas end of last year as well, and that can be almost competitive in it. You're supposed to give a gift. It's supposed to be out of your own heart, but then it's who's got the best gift, who's given the best gift, who's happiest with their gifts, and that can become an ultimate challenge as well.
That's right. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I do think so. There's in life the pendulum swings one way and the other, doesn't it? And I think we're on the way back from let's all just be in it together. There's no competition. I do think similarly you see things in politics where it swings from a kind of more communal approach to more nationalistic, and we've got that going on in the world at the moment as well. But the competitive drive is actually really helpful. It has its counterpart, which is unhelpful competition. But let's say, I don't know, the race to get vaccinated, for example, or like these competitions to see who can be the best app maker, or Dragon's Den. They're forms of competition that are pushing people to do the best work they can. You could think also about sales targets. If you give a group of people sales targets, if let's say everyone's got to sell 100 widgets a month, you will find out who are the best salespeople. Maybe some will try and be sneaky and do things against the rules, but that you shouldn't do that. But you'll find out who's competent. So gradings, evaluations, competitions. Again, in the world of cycling, a lot of people love going on these kind of sportives. They're just an average rider. They want to compete against other 48-year-old people.
Yeah. Do you think we need to be competitive? Do you think we need that side of us?
I wonder I don't know whether we need to, but I do think it's perhaps a side effect of our survival instincts. So, like you versus the lion, there's no question that in you versus the lion, we want you to survive, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense on a philosophical level, because what does it matter if you live or die? But, maybe the lions are endangered species and humans are not, so maybe it's better if the lion wins. I don't know. But we've got this innate drive, haven't we, to survive?
Yeah, I think I'd try and compete.
Maybe the social hierarchy one, we're a social animal, so we're pre-wired to work out, where we fit in a pecking order. So maybe those two things coming together can make us competitive. And maybe some people, I don't know, on a hormonal level, like the adrenaline, you can get addicted, can't you, to the adrenaline, endorphins. So the glory of victory, I'm sure, is a pretty exciting cocktail. I wonder how the footballers are getting on with that without crowds in the stadiums.
Yeah. I actually, I always like to watch when a trophy's been lifted, Premier League trophy's been lifted, the end of a long season. It's been a year in the making. A team has actually got to the top, got the most points, got to lift the trophy. That bit afterwards, where they're just sort of wandering around the pitch with their families, the fans are cheering and singing. That bit it's just really special. No matter which team's won, it doesn't have to be my team. I just love that moment where they're just sort of, that is the glory, isn't it? A lot of effort has gone into the season, and that gets a lot of attention. Yeah. And then there's this forgotten moment where they actually get to enjoy the win.
Those of us that have been in there, Chris, it's not forgotten that. Did you not see me in December when I knew we'd hit our financial targets?
Oh yeah. We should have televised that, to be honest.
I was elated, and after a really challenging year, all the pressure's suddenly off, but you've got all the feelings of success. And I think, bursting through a finish line like that, or winning that final game, that's it. You've got all this emotion and the psychological sort of focus that you've had, and then suddenly you can let go of that, and you get this huge wave of release. No wonder it's addictive to do that. But it doesn't have to be winning. It can also be not losing. Like those sides in the Premier League who don't get relegated, that relegation battle is equally a desperate struggle, and then to win is just to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, basically.
Yeah, there's often bigger celebrations for that.
Well, yeah, and it's huge.
Storming the pitch, and
so that's not losing, and that's that. My son Joseph, he likes to win. He hates to lose. So, but then I guess as we grow up, we try and socially train people not to have massive adverse reactions to winning or losing, and I think that's the social structure. That's the cultural piece. Like, imagine if you didn't have to slightly be a bit humble if you won something. Or imagine if it was encouraged to be in a massively foul mood if you didn't get your own way or you lost. Then, like, there's a social pressure also to fit in a certain acceptable framework.
Yeah, a pressure Jose Mourinho doesn't quite taken hold of, I think.
No, exactly. And it's counterproductive. And that's the point Emma's making in the book. There's a great quote by John Maxwell, who, again, probably not necessarily the person we should quote, but sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. And Emma's in this chapter in the book, saying that the pressure to beat other people doesn't make you give your best performance.
And you don't always have to win.
Well, I think we can still want to win. The question is, does the desire to win help us to perform our best? And actually focusing, so again, on IW revenue target, for example, focusing on what other companies are doing doesn't necessarily help us. We've got to focus on ourselves. For Emma sat on the start line or in the race, focusing on other athletes, that doesn't make her go faster. She's got to focus on herself. So if you're in a non-competitive, if you're in a discipline where your own performance dictates how well you do, then focusing on others doesn't help. I think if it's more in a team sport where Emma's got to get across the finish line in a certain time, but if you're in a team sport where you're playing against other people, or if you're like a car company where your main goal is market share, actually your wins come from someone else's losses. So then you are in more of a structural, strategic battle, like in a game of chess or poker where someone actually does need to win. And you're like in poker, all the money that you get comes from the other people at the table. So your win is someone else's loss. And I think that's more of a kind of confrontational setup and dynamic, and therefore winning is the important thing there.
Is it kind of that trying to win and desiring to win are different things? So trying to win is kind of pointless in that, take Emma, for example, she doesn't know what her competitors are going to do in terms of their time, whether they're going to have a great day. She can't control them. But her desire to win, and so all the training she's done, all the time she knows that if she gets, she's likely to win. That is helping her. But just this kind of sheer trying to win is ineffective.
I think trying in general is ineffective. So as Yoda said, do or do not, there is no try. But I think I'm actually just correcting myself here. But even the football teams, focus on your own performance. Think about what you can do to do your best. And that's what getting to ultimate is, to be the best version of yourself you can be. And that I think is a goal. It's also a goal that all of us can strive for, isn't it? To be our very best. The question of whether my very best is better than your very best is not totally relevant, though it can prove elating when it does work. So, I mean, I've worked with sales teams across all different kind of companies. Some of them have egos and competition, and I guess some of us still buy into kind of what was definitely like the late 80s kind of materialism. Let's get to the top. Let's, it's now all about being an influencer, isn't it? But it's the same kind of shallow goal, really, which is let's be famous or rich or both, preferably both.
Well, now we're getting onto values in terms of what has taken you to the top and what motivators there are underneath. What do you define as a value? Yeah, I mean,
psychologists would struggle to say what that is. I mean, we might talk a lot about personality. We've talked a lot before about language, but we've talked about beliefs. They're pretty intangible things, aren't they? But I guess I would think about a value as a kind of a combination of a feeling and maybe some words that a deeply held conviction about certain things being important in life. And from that foundation or that root, a wide set of behaviours can be driven, and maybe your ability to sort of check yourself as well is somehow related to your values. Your ability to hold yourself back from certain things you might otherwise go for example. So, yeah, I mean, Emma's done some work with her psychologist to come up with to be clear about what her values are, and to get those as words so that she knows what she's working with. I wouldn't say I have a list of values that I've got written down, but I know internally when I'm about to when I'm about to cross the threshold of doing something outside my value set. I don't know if you know that feeling.
Mm.
Do you know that feeling when you're about to do something wrong by your own definition?
Yeah, I think my personality means I've got quite clear lines so I know when I'm coming up to that. Yeah.
How does that feel?
It feels very uncomfortable to want to cross it. My personality means I don't want to cross any even perceived lines by other people.
Yeah, you're also concerned about reputation as to whether you've got near to or crossed those values.
Yeah, I want to be beyond reproach, I guess. Yeah.
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 Wow. Noble. You want to be noble.
I guess so. That's just the way I'm wired. But do you think so? They're deeply held, these values, but we can also kind of find them and identify them. So there's that dynamic going on.
It's really helpful, I think, to search around and think what's really important to you. I mean, you could prioritize those as well and say this is my most important value. Again, it's like that's another kind of competition, isn't it? Which is the most important value. But I mean, I think society also shares quite a lot of values in common. We share kindness, empathy, love, even generosity, thoughtfulness. There is this value. Let's say the value of making the most of your potential. That's quite high in our society. Let's say you've met someone who said, actually, I'm not interested in making the most of my potential at all. No, doesn't mean anything to me. I'm interested. Couldn't care less. I'm happy to make the least of my potential. Like we would naturally think, oh, it's not quite right, is it? Yeah. But I mean, another way of saying that was I'm not interested in anything apart from enjoying life. That might think, oh yeah, that makes sense. So I think how these things are framed and how we conceive our values is important. I think they are the compass that steers us through some inner decision making, difficult decision making maybe. So I would say I also value staying positive and trying to see the positive side. The performance psychologist Steve Peters and others would say that's great. That's a really good mental habit, but it's also a value to me. If I'm in a setback, then we all have a choice about how we respond, and I'm going to choose that. So I'd say that's driven by a value to stay positive, and when you can, and I think sometimes you can't, but so we've got these values flitting around within us.
So the language and framing of saying is really important. How we identify them and name them is important. You mentioned difficult moments.
I'm not sure if naming them is important. I think that their inner feelings. My personal view is that the words lie on top of inner feelings about things.
Okay. Yeah.
So caring for those around you is a feeling, and I think the words, however we put the words over it, we could use different words. It might be broadly the same thing.
We can still know that it's a value without giving it words. And that's just sitting underneath. You mentioned the difficult moments. Is that when values really show up?
Yeah, I think that's it. Obviously, let's say we've got a value of kindness and everyone else is kind to us. It's just so we just reciprocate, and we're in a good life situation, and then some people start being unkind to us, and we're in and maybe we're in a difficult life situation. Are we still able to be kind in those bad moments? And again, we see with children, eventually they lash out or something. Then we say to them even though they said this, even though they did that, don't lash out. So we're conditioning them to try and get them to have a kind of honourable set of societal values because we know that it will help them out later on in life. But I mean, again, I think looking at it the other way around is interesting. What if we said to our kids, if someone lashes out at you lash out back at them? I think my dad did actually say that to me once. But he said, yeah, if they push you around, just do it. That's how society used to be. And so we're conditioning our kids in our team we try and think about what our values are, not so much necessarily about what the words are, but how's that show up in action? If someone was kept being late for something, if someone kept not delivering something, if someone was dishonest, do those fit with our shared values? So I think so. I think that it's an important exploration. I think many people have done this exercise and kind of thought through what's important to them in life, but if we haven't, it's a good part of kind of growing up somehow.
Yeah, I think it is. And what about when our values conflict with each other, when they sort of cross over and don't quite align?
Well, they will. I think they will conflict. I think that's the interesting part, actually. So I don't know if you know what cognitive dissonance is, but that's when we hold mutually exclusive beliefs.
Right.
So if we let's say I believe that the world's a everyone in the world is at heart a good person. Yeah. Okay. I'll show you a good level of cognitive dissonance. Should we be kind to people who are in prison?
Yeah.
So when they're at the let's say someone's murdered someone and they're at the court, and we're like, justice should be done. They deserve to be punished. Look what they've done. And then as soon as they get to prison, we're like, right, they need to be rehabilitated. Like prison is really tough. Yes, they might have to serve yes, they've done a crime, but they need to move on. We need to get them back to being a citizen. It's like there's two different views there: justice and rehabilitation, punishment and helping someone come back to society. So that I always find that situation funny because I've worked in prisons a bit, and like I've saw how much you suffer if you're in prison. I mean, you suffer. So we would perhaps say like, oh, people shouldn't suffer. We should be kind to people. Yeah, as a society, we also believe in punishing. But when this is the exciting bit of kind of ethics when values come into conflict and what we should do about that. I suffer with that ethically when I've got someone in the team who's maybe not performing. So on a community level, I want to create a safe space where everyone can belong and feel safe. And then sometimes you've got people that just don't perform. And their job role says you need to be able to do this to be competent. And they don't do it. And you've got this horrible conflict then. The value of performance and accountability on the job role and the societal kind of team situation. In the best cases, we deal with that as a team. But sometimes it just falls to me to act against my values, which is I find really difficult, Chris.
Those are difficult moments.
Really difficult. Yeah.
It's
I remember there's one case that you'll remember that was extremely difficult. But every time it's not performing, it's difficult. Yeah.
It's incredibly tough. And as you say, those are the moments where our values really matter, and having that understanding of what might be going on underneath is really important.
Yeah. And I know we're running a little bit out of time, but it's quite a lot in, isn't it? 2 letters.
It is. Yeah.
Should we just quickly touch on a couple of habituators?
Yeah, let's do that. What kind of practical tips can we take on?
Certainly thinking about ultimate, I think small wins. So one habit for me to harness the power of small wins. To think about how you can have small wins each day and how you can track your successes. I think that's important. So Emma does have small wins. She does her workouts. She does her sessions. She'll evaluate whether she's done it well. So if you're doing the inputs, you can have small wins there. I think that's a good thing to keep track of. And I'm just thinking also, on reflection. So in the values, reflecting back at the end of the day, have we lived out our values today? Have we been the person we want to be? Is there anyone we need to say sorry to, for example? Just did we step outside of our value set? Do we need to set things right? Apologise. These in our relationship at home, we have a kind of race who can be the first to apologise with any kind of integrity, but just be quick to say sorry when things have happened. That for me on the values, that reflection, like am I living right with people in the world, I think is important.
Yeah, it's really helpful. What about on the values front?
That last one was on values.
That was for values.
If you reflect out at the end of the day, have I lived out my values? For me, like if I haven't been responsible with my time in a given day, I might not need to tell anyone that, but I need to think about it and think, okay, I didn't actually put my best in today, so let's improve on that tomorrow. So
thinking about small wins and then thinking about whether we've crossed that line of our values, and whether there's anything we can do to react to it. But I'm hearing you won't cross your values lines, Chris. I try not to. Yeah, but is being obstinate one of your values? I don't even know what that means. Like being like a donkey, it's not being able to be pushed. I don't think that's one of my values now. Oh yeah. So but there you go. You would be quite obstinate about going outside your values. Yes. Being obstinate is not one of your values. No. Being flexible probably is. Yeah. So you see how it kind of they often don't. They often compete, don't they? Yeah. Yeah. Good. Cool, man. Great. Then we should wrap up the show. Yeah. Have a great day, folks. See you tomorrow.